the end of the challenge window?
We're going to do a rolling challenge process. So once the challenges have been submitted and they've been verified that they contain the required documentation, then they will go out to the providers and you'll have 30 days to respond or rebut.
And will challenges be allowed that do not affect BEAD eligibility, like a challenge to DSL service?
And DSL will be eligible for BEAD funding, so there's no need to challenge. It wouldn't affect the eligibility for BEAD.
Is there clarification from NTIA on the low-cost offering requirement, or is that still under discussion?
That is in our volume 2. We do have some clarification on the tribal low-cost option going in today as part of the curing. And I did forget to mention, Anna has cleaned up when we do the curing, and I think, I don't even know, it was 12 rounds maybe on volume 1. And so NTIA only opens the text box. There's multiple text boxes in each volume, and they only open the text box where they want you to cure or fix what you had previously submitted. And so when you do that, then they kick out what's called an intake summary. And so we had the intake summary of what had been approved in our volume 1, and Anna went back and cleaned that all up so it looks nicer. And it is posted on the website. So we have the volume 1 as it was submitted and the volume 1 as it was approved. We also had the volume 2 as it was submitted. That has gone through significant changes, and Anna is working to post the current draft in curing of the volume 2. And so and actually there's another curing round on volume 2 due tonight. So that won't be in there unless we swap it out. We'll have to talk about how frequently. We're hoping we're getting to the end on the volume 2 curing, but we don't know. So it's just been a challenge keeping up with all of the iterations of the proposal. And we had not posted our submissions because it would just be confusing to people as to what is current, because it's always undergoing review and possible change. So, but we will have a draft of where we're at with the volume 2, either as of last week or this week. So.
Another question, can you please confirm which NTIA fabric was used?
Well, it's FCC fabric, so it's the location, and this gets very confusing, but it's the location fabric as of December 31st of 2023, and the availability, which should have been through June 11th, because that's kind of always being updated, of June 11th of 2024.
Does the state allow bulk uploads of location IDs for all challenge types, including CAIs?
Our broadband portal vendor does not allow for that, so you have to circle it on a map. We are hoping a lot of those issues have gone away with using the newer fabric. And this was allowed by NTIA for 5 other states that are in or through the challenge process using this same vendor. So, but we can work with you and the vendor to see what your issues are and if there's a workaround.
Okay, and then a clarification question asking to clarify 30 days to rebut once the rebuttal starts, or from when the provider receives the challenge on the rolling basis?
On the rolling basis, so 30 days from when you receive it. And I think there was a question about the CSV. We will be releasing the list of un- and underserved locations in that CSV file, but it's just the fabric ID. So unless you have a license from CostQuest, it won't make a lot of sense to you. But for those providers that do have a CostQuest license, the CSV file should be up today or tomorrow, I think. of un- and underserved locations.
Yes, hoping to get that up by end of the day tomorrow at the latest. There were also a couple question on links. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a few of the links in the chat that were in the presentation. I believe that will answer that question. And then there was a question on when the slides will be available. We'll be posting those to the website along with this recording, and I'll also upload a PDF version at the end here. But I see we just got another question, which I'll go ahead and read quickly. My understanding is that legally binding agreements cannot be created technically between a tribe and a provider. Tribes cannot enforce co-ops or providers to complete broadband projects under their state or federal grant agreements. We can do letters of support or tribal resolutions, but my understanding, it is not possible to create a legal or enforceable document that could be upheld.
The footnote in the NOFO is it has to be a legally binding agreement. So if we don't have a legally binding agreement from the tribe, and these are for to be built areas, then the locations would be eligible for BEAD. So I don't know where your understanding is, but we're just going by the footnote in the NOFO. And it's, if you disagree, that's probably an issue to talk to Tom and the NTIA about.
Yeah, this is Nate from White Earth. Just to elaborate on that comment, can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had some requests from our providers to get those legally binding agreements, and they provided a template to us, and we ended up just doing the resolution. So, because they said, yeah, this is what the NOFO says, you have to have a legally binding agreement, but we're just like, we can't require them to build out, even, once they're looking at doing it. So maybe that's what that's all it would be, but I don't know. I just, that enforceability seems just tricky from our perspective. So I just wanted to provide our perspective when we looked at that earlier last year.
Nathan, this is Tom. If you want to write that up and email it over to me, I can run that through our tribal team and our legal to see what information we get back for you. Unfortunately, I'm locked out of the chat, so hopefully Anna can share my email, and you can send that over my way if you don't have it already.
And Nathan, I think if the tribe is fine, it would be the tribe that would probably be the one that would challenge it's not an enforceable commitment. Or is your concern that you would have signed a resolution and then it's off the BEAD list and then it doesn't get built?
Right. So we just signed a resolution supporting Garden Valley. They have a big area. We're in that red area, and so we for sure want to get built out. But it's just this whole hey, you have an enforceable contract, and like this isn't even our project, And so
that's for a state grant funded project.
No, I think this was for a federally grant project. I have to go back and look. I can't remember. I have to check.
Because if the state awarded it, if it was a Round 10 project and the state awarded it, then the state would have a contract with Garden Valley to build it out, and we would be paying them on a reimbursement basis. We've had a number of projects with that provider and haven't had any issues.
Oh, let me see. I have to go back and look, you guys. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for that.
No, that's okay. We just aren't. If it's not a state-funded project, Garden Valley didn't participate in the U.S. Department of Ag Reconnect, and we haven't started BEAD subgrantee selection, so it wouldn't be for that yet. In fact, I don't know that Garden Valley, they're one of the Minnesota Telecom Association members, and they're saying none of their members are going to participate in BEAD. So we're just not at that point yet for BEAD funding.
Yes, I'm pulling up my file. I can't get which one they're looking at here. Sorry. I'll have to look. I thought it was federal. So I don't have it with me. Sorry. I can circle back with you, Tom.
Okay.
And a follow-up to a previous question. So the question was, what technology code is used for cellular service in the FCC BDC? And the answer to that in the chat from someone else was 70, 71, or 72 when it's provided via cellular provider rather than LFW provider. And the follow-up question is just, is there a distinction for code 70, 71, or 72? That was the follow-up. Okay, that is when it is provided via cellular provider rather than LFW provider.
I thought one of those was the cellular code. I would have to get back. We'll put that in the FAQ.
Okay. And I think that got to all of the questions that were in the chat. If I missed any of them and you want to re-up that in the chat, that would be great. Or if anyone else has questions, feel free to add them to the chat now or come off. You should be able to unmute if you just want to ask your question directly.
This is Nate, just getting back to you. It's the border-to-border grant.
Yeah, Nate, I thought that it was. So we can talk about that. But again, I know Garden Valley's done a couple of, at least one, I think 2 projects on White Earth.
Yep.
That have gone fine. So we changed the language for round 10 because of the footnote in the NTIA NOFO for the BEAD program. We want to make sure if we fund it with state funding, the tribe is happy with that and wouldn't try to argue to NTIA that those same locations should be eligible for BEAD funding and overbuilt by another provider that receives BEAD funding.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Looks like one more just got posted in the chat. For any project areas that don't receive BEAD applications by ISPs, what coverage solutions will MNDEED explore?
Well, we have to show that we're getting something to all unserved locations and then move on to underserved locations. So we know we'll get project applications in. We're allowing the providers to define the project areas, which is unlike almost all of the other states, but it's worked well for us with our historic state programs. So if we see, and we're hoping to conduct 3 subgrantee selection rounds in our year or whatever we have left of it after our list of final locations is approved. But if we have areas that we don't get an application for, we'll be discussing with providers whether they would want to edge out or what it would take to get them to edge out. If there are areas that we don't have a provider that wants to do a wired service for, we'd be looking next at licensed fixed wireless. And then if there aren't any applications for that under the NTIA guidelines, we would be looking at non-reliable broadband service, which is the unlicensed fixed wireless and satellite coverage. So we'll do our best within the dollar amounts that we have to get as much fiber out there as we can, and then licensed fixed wireless, and then move on to non-licensed and satellite. I mean, obviously the state's not a broadband provider, so there are locations, if we just don't get a bid on, we would publish those and make it real clear there was just no one that wanted to provide service to these locations, and so they're not included. And then it would be up to NTIA to see if they approve that in our final proposal.
And then another question here, what cost quest licenses does the state have?
We check our agreement. We have a tier C. Any other questions? Well, if not now, please, can more than one person, so, all right, I guess I don't understand the question. Can more than one person submit challenges in the portal at the same time? From the same organization? I believe so, but we can get yes to help with submissions. I believe so, but we will check on that. And I'll ask at Geo to cover that for sure on Thursday's office hours.
Also, I'll just say the chat on Teams right now is not letting me add any attachments or documents. So those will be posted to the website. And since folks had to register to attend this, I have everyone's email address, so I should be able to follow up and I can send the PDF to everybody. But it won't be in the chat at the end of this.
Okay, well, I think we can close it out for now. If you have questions, send them to the d.broadband@state.mn.us. Or if you have lots of questions, make sure you attend our office hours Thursday at 2 o'clock. AppGeo will be presenting, and they are going to be the best ones to ask your questions that are specific to the portal and the use of the portal. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your